Okay, let's look at what an example of a model might look like. So here is kind of a cheesy picture, but the title says How Global Warming Works. So you're going to notice that this is a model of some kind of process about global warming. Usually when we do models, it is representing like a process and it's telling the story of the process. So even though this is like a really simple, cheesy image, I like it because it starts to tell the story of what this person's trying to explain. So up here I have a sun and I see some lines coming out of the sun. So that shows me something's coming out of the sun or maybe going into the sun. In this case, it's probably energy coming out. I see a line here that probably represents the atmosphere. And I see a whole bunch of arrows. And so I notice there's a bigger arrow here and it's labeled heat. So some heat's coming out. And I see some smaller arrows here also labeled heat. But I also notice there's some arrows coming back towards the earth, right, from the atmosphere that also represent heat, and some arrows here. And it looks like they're reflecting off. I also see all these little black dots here, and that I can tell is carbon dioxide. So you'll notice everything is labeled in our model, and the pictures are not necessarily beautiful. But here I see the smog coming out of the car, and then I see it coming out of this building, and it looks like the carbon dioxide is coming from those two things. So somebody created this model pretty quickly with these probably copy and paste images, but it actually does do a good job of kind of telling the story they're trying to tell, right? Down here you'll also notice fossil fuels are trapped under the ground, and so that's labeled as well. So that's one example of what a model could look like. Another model is something like this. So this is actually an image from a workshop that I went to, and you will notice here I see some circles, and the circles are labeled. So the blue circles are methane, the red circles are oxygen, and I see these arrows here, and it looks like maybe those circles are mixing together. So I'm assuming they're particles. I also noticed this flame coming out one side of a hole, and everything's happening in this cylinder. So even though I don't know what this was about, I don't know what happened, but I can start to piece together the story, maybe even the explanation of why it happened by looking at this model. So when you guys draw models, it might look something like this, right? It's not necessarily super beautiful, but that's exactly what we want. You're telling the story. So let's go ahead and look back at our notebook. So if you look at the Unit 1.3, Construct a Model, instructions that we went over previously, like I said, your job is to develop a model that explains what has to happen for a large fire to occur. So in your model, it's going to be clear by some pictures where the energy is changing, so maybe where some energy is coming or where it's going to. How the mass changes. So in 1.2, I asked you about how the mass would change in a wildfire. And so where does it come from? Where does it go to? Where is the fuel coming from? Where is it going to? What are the sources? And any other changes you can explain on that model are important as well. So, but when you look at it, when anybody looks at it, they should be able to kind of start to answer this question. So what has to happen for the large fire to occur? All right, go ahead and submit those anyway. If you are comfortable drawing it, you can draw it out on a piece of paper, take a picture, and paste it into the Google Slides. Or you're welcome to do it on digitally and provide a link, or maybe even explain in some kind of a video, and you can put that in the slides as well. So I'm flexible about how you want to explain these, but basically it's another way of representing what you're thinking without necessarily having to write it out. All right, come to Zoom on Friday if you have any questions, and I will be there to answer them. Bye, everybody.